Welcome to Trailblazers and Titans with your host, Dr. Keith Haney. Trailblazers and Titans is your go-to podcast for insights, inspiration, and actionable advice from the world's most successful entrepreneurs and leaders. Each episode features in-depth interviews with industry pioneers, innovative thinkers, and business moguls who share their journeys, challenges, and strategies for success. Whether you're an aspiring entrepreneur, a seasoned leader, or someone looking to make a significant impact, this podcast provides the tools and motivation to blaze your trail and become a titan in your field. Tune in to learn, grow, and transform your vision into reality.
At the age of 22, Christopher Lee Maher was a Navy SEAL in his prime with a sleek 1.8% body fat. Pound for pound, he was one of the fittest people on the planet. He also completely unaware of the full impact that stress would eventually have on his physical, mental, energetic, and emotional well-being. He trained all day long at a level on par with professional athletes. In fact, after the SEALs, he began focusing on his dream of making it to the U.S. Olympic trials in track and field. A lack of awareness of the impact of high stress loads kept him from ever manifesting his dream. Like many high-performing athletes, he dealt with the pain of a semi-consistent basis. Over time, that escalated to pain in every joint in his feet, lower back, and neck. He was headed for a full-blown hip replacement, resorting to reading lips because his hearing was shot, and his vision wasn't much better. He barely slept and spent his days like a zombie. We're going to hear the rest of the story today from Christopher. We welcome him to the podcast. Well, it's so good to have Christopher on the podcast. Again, how you doing today, my friend?
I'm good. Yeah, I got some sleep last night. Surprisingly, usually I get 5 hours, I wake up and I'm golden. And I slept 7 hours and I was like, oh, I'm still tired. I still need to lay down.
There you go. I get that. I blame mine on old age, but
Yeah.
So I'm going to ask you my favorite question. What's the best piece of advice you ever received?
Can I curse?
Sure.
Yeah. Wish in one hand, shit in the other, and see which one fills up faster.
I think my grandfather used to say that too.
Yeah. So his name was Bub Akins, right? He was from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. He was an old Army cook, and he was my house parent at Milton Hershey School. And I went up to him one day and I said, no, he was punishing me. So I had to buff the laundry room. And the way that we used to buff was you used to cut off the ends of wool pants, put our shoes inside of those and our feet, and then we would move back and forth to buff the floors that he waxed.
Okay.
And I said to him, I wish I never came to this student home. I wish I never met you. And I think I was in 5th grade, and he said, well, Christopher, I tell you what, why don't you go down to the apartment, go into the bathroom, pull down your pants, shit in one hand, wish in the other, and tell me which one fills up faster. And I just looked at him because I was sort of like trying to understand what he was saying. And then I got it. And then I just started laughing. And then after that, I never complained anymore.
There you go.
So that stopped all my complaining.
Those little gems that we never expect to impact our lives that do. So tell us about your background. I read your story, your bio. You have had an interesting journey, but tell us about you and what inspired you to write Free for Life.
I got to a place where I felt like it was time to give back. And at least if people know that there's another way, they can make a choice that's informed. But if they don't know that there's another way, they can only continue on as everyone has been moving through the world. And I thought that the pathway, the journey that had been provided for me had a lot of immense value. And so I decided, okay, I think it's time. And I released it on September 11th. 2019, because September 11th, 2019 was very significant. This is when humanity lost, especially in the United States, we lost a lot of our privileges. And one of the privileges that we lost was going with your family to the airport, walking them to the gate, and watching them fly off, right?
Right.
Having that emotional connection. And now we've shifted to like Ubers and all the other companies that just sort of drop you off at the airport and bye. And so that used to be an emotional event. And that emotional event was stripped away. So I was just looking at all the ways in which 9/11 had impacted us negatively. And I wanted to say, hey, on this day, something good is coming into the world that's better than that is worse, right?
Right.
Is better than that is worse. So that was my motivation.
That's powerful. I know you have a background as a Navy SEAL, and I appreciate and thank you for your service to our country. How did that experience as a Navy SEAL, influence your concepts in this book?
I think the thing that I got from SEAL training and being in the SEAL teams is you show up no matter what, right? If you're uncomfortable, no one cares. But if your goal is important to you, the discomfort is irrelevant. And so I think that's the greatest philosophy that I picked up internally from growing through something that was very difficult, physically, challenging emotionally, challenging energetically, challenging psychologically. And put yourself in uncomfortable positions, because the more you get comfortable with being uncomfortable, the greater success that you'll have at understanding who it is you are at your core.
Makes sense. After you left the SEALs, what was your goal in life? What were you trying to achieve when you left the SEALs?
When I left the SEALs, I was sort of short minded in the sense that I wanted to get to the Olympic trials and have a shot at getting to the Olympics. And I thought, man, with this work ethic that I have, with this level of discipline that I have, this is going to be easy peasy. And it was the exact opposite, because what I was trying to attempt to do was apply a SEAL team mindset to a sport that's about finesse
Okay.
and rest. And I thought I could just show up and grind it out. And the grinding it out, meaning being comfortable with pain, was going to allow me to run past my competitors with ease. And that didn't happen, because I was going to practice every day, and every practice, every rep, every loop around the track, for me, it was a race. So I was racing every day versus racing on Saturday. And so by the time Saturday came around, there was no gas in the tank. And then I was frustrated emotionally. I was frustrated psychologically. I was frustrated energetically. And I had no idea why I was frustrated. And so I created a limiting belief. I bought into it. For the SEAL teams, that mindset is great. But if you want to be a high performing athlete in a finesse sport, then rest is more important than grinding things out.
What moment in your journey in trying to be an Olympic athlete did that realization hit, and what did you do to adapt your thinking to deal with what you came up with from the discovery of that?
I mean, the end result of that limiting belief was a body riddled with pain all on my left side. So I had a bunch of overuse injuries, a bunch of tendonitis, plantar fasciitis, runner's knee, iliotibial band friction syndrome. I got compartment syndrome in my left calf. I ended up with rupturing a bursa in my left hip. I ended up with frozen shoulder syndrome on the left, and I wasn't able to turn my head to the left anymore. And so, well, let's say with anymore, just a limited range of motion relative to my right side. So my right side of my body all had great ranges of motion. The left side of my body all had limited ranges of motion. And I felt it when I walked. Just even standing was uncomfortable, because my brain was in a lateralized state of function, which means one hemisphere electrically was firing on all cylinders and the other one was asleep. And so I was stealing too much energy from the week before. And then I was stealing too much energy from the month before. So it might be November. I was already stealing energy from January.
Wow.
So if you look at your life as like a bank account, right? The amount of energy that you have, you only have so much. And so when your goals are fixed and your ideas are fixed, and even though your ideas are being challenged, you're ignoring all of the signs that they're giving you to create a new idea, then your limiting beliefs will eventually cause you to miss the boat. And I gained something from that. Instead, what I gained was an opportunity to put my body back together, because none of it really made sense to me. Like, how can you go to bed on Monday and you wake up on Tuesday and now your body hurts?
Right.
That doesn't make any sense, right? So I knew philosophically, right? I was able to analyze and go, this doesn't, how's that? Hold on. I went to bed on Monday, felt great, woke up on Tuesday, and I feel terrible. What happened in those 8 hours, right?
Right.
And I thought to myself, well, if I felt good before, I can feel good again. So there must be a way to do it.
Right.
Right.
So you just train harder then, right?
yeah, that's what I did. I decided to train harder. And what's funny is, we're laughing at it, but you train harder and then the injury just moves from one place to another.
Right.
So my foot stopped hurting, and then my knee started hurting. And then my knee stopped hurting, and then my iliotibial band started hurting. And that stopped hurting, and then my calf started hurting, right? And I just continued to push the injury up the body.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you were basically the national debt on your body, is what you were doing.
Yes, I was the national debt on my body. I was 1 trillion watts in debt. And I was, to be honest with you, when I was in my situation, the level of holistic care on the planet, it didn't exist. Right? There was, look, if I'm being real, there was just a bunch of bums out there.
Right.
And they knew a little something. But in the last 25 years, holistic care has gone through the roof, right? You've got, brilliant minds and open hearts that have decided, yeah, I'm going to pull away from allopathic medicine. I'm going to pull away from engineering, and I'm going to put this analysis that I have, and I'm going to put it on my body. I'm going to put it on my soul. I'm going to put it on my spirit. I'm going to put it on my energy. I'm going to put it on my consciousness. And so now, if you were an athlete and you end up with something like I had, there's 100 different places you can go to get reputable help, right? Reputable assistance, right? You'll sit down in an office and someone will ask you, why are you doing this to yourself? Why are you putting yourself in so much pain? And nobody questioned me. And I think the challenge is that when you go through SEAL training, at some point your body's going to be in pain. But the instructor cadre, they don't care. Like, they went through SEAL training. They were in pain. It sucked for them. So you're not going to go up there and be like, Instructor Johnson, my shoulder hurts. He's just going to start laughing at you. But it really hurts. But it really hurts. I don't give a shit. Get out of my face. So you're not, things aren't cuddly. They're unforgiving, and they need to be. You know why? Because you're being trained to be a warrior. You're being trained that if you get shot, you better pick up your gun and you better point it down range, and you better get that guy. Right? If one of your teammates gets shot, you better throw him over the back. I don't care how much he weighs, and you better drag him into the bush for cover. So I was being trained for that. And I thought I could take that training and apply it to these other things. And you just can't. You can't. It's too much too often.
Right.
What I discovered, which is really relevant for society, is that a formula. Part of the formula is lifetime accumulated stress loads and daily accumulated stress loads. And you can only recover from your daily accumulated stress load if you have an efficient amount of sleep and rest. And if you don't have an efficient amount of sleep and rest, now you're taking Tuesday's stress and tension and strain and you're taking it into Wednesday. And it's just a little more. And then you're taking all that into Thursday, and it's just a little more, and you're taking all that into Friday. And so let's pull off the Navy SEAL bit and go to somebody who works in a factory, or go to someone who's a professor, right? It's end of the season. I mean, it's end of the school year. You know, they got all the papers to correct. They have all they have all the tests to correct. They have all the papers to review, and they teach 5 classes. And it's at Penn State University where there's 75 kids per class, right? And so you just look at that and you go, okay, the way that life is set up, the way that we've organized it as a race, as a culture, as a community, as a family, as individuals, is, as Americans, we know we have one speed: hardcore, all day long. I'm going to get there, because Americans are peasants. Like, if you look back, even if we look at African Americans, they were sold into slavery by Africans, right?
Right.
And so, and then you look at the Irish, and you look at the Jewish, and you know, you just look at all these different races. You look at the Polish that are here, and the Italians. Where they came from, they were peasants. They didn't have a pot to piss in, and so they're on the grind because every one of them wants to be the king. Right? And so they want to be the king of their own castle. They don't want anyone to tell them what to do or how to do it, because for thousands of years they were suppressed and they were oppressed by people who were tyrannical. And they took advantage of their goodness for their own benefit. And so when they came to the States, they were like, look, we're going to do whatever we can in order to move ahead. But we have already moved ahead, but we still have the same mindsets. And so what we need is we need to get our mindset checked, and our bodies are the way, is the tool that checks us. That goes, hey, I don't know if you're thinking about this the right way. And you're going, really? Yeah, you've been constipated for 4 days now.
Right.
So there must be something going on in the way that you're living, right? In the way that you're being, the way that you're thinking, the way that you're perceiving, and the way that you're emoting, that isn't working for you. But we just keep on moving ahead anyway, because we don't have time to slow down, because there's so much pressure. And if you look at inflation and everything that's going on financially, economically, it's difficult to take your foot off the gas. Because if you do, you might not be able to pay your rent. You might not be able to feed your children. So you have to stay locked in at all times in a hypervigilant state, or you might get left behind.
So let's talk about your true body intelligence system. Tell us how that differs from regular wellness programs, because what you're kind of leading us into is we have to change how we think. We have to change how we take care of ourselves. So how do we do that?
How do we do that? It's a simple answer, right? If you've got stress and strain on the left, and you've got distortion on the right, and in the middle sits complex tension, okay? Well, if you remove the complex tension, then guess what happens on the left? The stress and the strain, they reduce. On the right, what happens? The distortion, psychologically, emotionally, energetically, and structurally, that also reduces. So what's the simple solution? Spend a sufficient amount of time, which is like 10 to 15 minutes a day, okay, removing the stress and strain that turned into physical tension from the day before in your body, turn that into comfort and flexibility and strength. And if you do that 10 to 15 minutes a day, at the end of 30 days, you will have already removed decades of stress and strain out of your body. And if you do that, your mind is going to get quiet. Your body's going to get comfortable. Your emotions are going to be grounded instead of anxious. And your energy is going to be abundant instead of deficient. And so what's the perfect life? Well, if I want to achieve my dreams and I want to have the experiences that I crave as a soul, meaning the connection that I want with my loved ones and my family and my peers and my coworkers, well, what do I need in order to maximize that potential? I need an abundant amount of energy. I need a clear mind. I need an open heart. I need a comfortable, strong body, and I need an effervescent spirit and a mind that is vivacious, meaning has levity, can make light of any situation. If I have those things, man, the sky is the limit, and I get to have the experiences that I crave because I can manipulate my environment to produce the results that I want. But if my energy is deficient, what's going to happen? I'm just not going to do the things that I need to take care of myself, right?
Right.
If my mind is unclear, I'm going to make poor decisions. If my body's uncomfortable and strained and weak, what am I going to do? Am I going to be able to achieve the things that I want? No, because my discomfort is going to have my attention instead of my love having my attention. And then if I don't have an effervescent spirit, meaning if I don't feel connected to a greater cause, to a greater purpose than just myself, what's going to happen? I'm not going to have the inspiration that I need in order to get out of bed, put my feet on the ground, and do the right things. I'm going to do the wrong things because when people feel bad, they do bad. And what I mean is they harm themselves and they harm others with the actions that they take. And an action of harm is as simple as getting up in the morning and pounding 3 cups of coffee. Right? You wake up, your eyes are bloodshot, you're super tired, you've slammed the alarm 5 times, and now your choice, rather than go for like a brisk walk for 10 minutes, your choice is to pound 3 cups of coffee and a bunch of sugar to get out the door. Then you're harming yourself, right? And this is what people do when they're under great stress and great strain. So to answer your question and come back around to what you said is, spend 10 to 15 minutes a day reducing your daily accumulated stress and your lifetime accumulated stress loads by reducing physical tension.
I love that. You didn't learn that in the Navy SEALs. So how did you discover how you do that? Because what you described before and the way we as Americans live is we kind of are living our life as Navy SEALs. We are pushing and pushing and pushing because we're preparing for the war that's coming, and we're not ever taking the time to stop and assess how can I reduce the load on my life, on my body, on my spirit by tapping into the relief I need and the stress that I'm dealing with.
Yeah. Yeah. We just put it off to the side, right? And just keep moving ahead. And, so what's interesting is that for Americans, our greatest gift, which is hope and ambition and discipline, has become our greatest curse. Because now if you go to the list of all the countries in the world, we're the sickest, right? Greatest amount of wealth, right? We wanted to be kings. We wanted to have money. We wanted to have positional leverage. We have all those things. But now what do we have? We have the greatest amount of sickness. We have the least amount of mental health, right? Mental wellness. Ours is the lowest of any country in the world. Okay. Our physiological health is the worst of any country in the world. And so, we have the money, we have the resources, but we don't have the minds or the emotions and the bodies to enjoy the benefits of the things that we've achieved. And so if you look at the spiritual sickness in the United States, I had a friend who had gotten into some trouble, and I decided to do some research for him. And I found that, the pornographic industry in the United States, the amount of money that they make is greater the amount of money that the NFL and the NBA makes combined.
Wow.
So there's a level of spiritual sickness that's going on in our country. So emotionally and mentally we're sick. Physiologically and structurally we're sick. And spiritually we're sick. And it's all because of the things that occurred thousands of years ago that have been passed on to us through the epigenetics and the genetics that go, hey, don't value yourself, value the image that you've been creating in your mind. And I look at peasants, I imagine what it was like to be a peasant. And you see the king coming by and the queen, and they're carrying them in some sort of apparatus, or they're on their horses and their shiny helmets. And you're looking at that and you're thinking, wow, how come I can't have that? And so there's just been some level of resentment underneath, but not really understanding the cost. So we want something like we want that beautiful thing at the end of the rainbow, but we don't know that there's an enormous cost to have that thing.
Right.
Because the most important thing in my mind, in my body, my energy, my emotions, my experience is to have a direct connection to the source that created you, and to have a life filled with loving kindness and generosity of spirit. And if I can have those things, and I'm sharing those every day, the world around me is a better place. Because as I lift up and I rise up, I bring up those around me, right? As I elevate my energies, I elevate my consciousness. And my feeling is consciousness will be the new gold in the future. Because people are going to get to the place of going, yeah, no, there must be a better way. I have to have a different driver in life. And the driver for me has got to be your own intelligence, right? Your physical intelligence, your mental intelligence, your spiritual intelligence, your emotional intelligence. And if I can raise those up in myself, then all rivers rise to my location, right?
Right.
All energy around me and my sphere of influence, it comes up to meet me. So I have to have a driver that's greater than me.
So when people pick up your book, how can readers apply the principles of Free for Life in their daily lives?
Well, that's interesting, isn't it? How can they do that? I think the biggest step, and the first thing that they can do is they can ask themselves, they can pull up a chair to a mirror, look in a mirror eye to eye, level, and ask themselves a very simple question. Who am I? Why am I here? What do I need to change in order to become who I'm meant to be? And get in a deep, soulful connection with yourself. I mean, there is the old adage that the eyes are the windows to the soul. And if this is the case, then there's great benefit in looking into your own eyes and questioning yourself and communicating with your soul so that you can get back what it is you really want from this life experience. And then to find the courage you need in order to make those shifts and those changes. Because life is really meant to be simple. What do we need? We need a little bit of food. We need a little bit of beverage. We need a fair amount of sleep. And we need a purpose that's greater than ourselves.
Right.
Right. And if you have a community that cares, right? You know, that's a bonus. If you got a community that cares, and you got a purpose that's greater beyond yourself, and you got a body that's healthy, and emotions that are grounded, and energy that's abundant, and a mind that's clear, then you got a great life. You don't have a good life, you have a great life. And if somewhere in there you can realize that, oh, there's something greater than me that's created all of this for me to experience, and I'm in a co-creative experience with this essence, then guess what? Now it's better than a bonus. It's like a quadruple bonus. And now I feel good. And when I feel good, I do good because I feel connected.
So you've laid out for us this wonderful pathway in this book that you have, Free for Life. What future books do you have in mind, or projects related to true body intelligence?
Yeah, I think one of the projects for me is getting into a filming studio and building out some programs so that other people can order them off the net, and they can do the things that I'm doing to make myself feel good every single day. and make those available and affordable for all humans. So that if you have the ambition and you have the drive and you care about yourself intensely, you have a way of showing your self care. Because people say, oh, well, how do I love myself? Well, you love yourself by taking inspired action to your own benefit. Well, what's an inspired action to my own benefit? Stepping away from the daily acceptable drugs that I've been addicted to, whether it's nicotine, caffeine, alcohol, marijuana, refined sugar, brown sugar, pharmaceuticals, or recreational drugs, stepping away from those, and then removing tension and stress and distortion from my body that's built up over the last 30 years, the last 25 years, the last 55 years, the last 65 years, and getting into a cohesive relationship with my mind, body, and spirit.
That's great. I love to ask my guests this question. What do you want your legacy to be?
I want my legacy to be simplicity. You know, um, when things get complex and we get used to complexity, we need more complexity in order to feel like we're alive, that life is worth living. And I hearken back to Arkham Razor's principle. And in that principle, it states that the answer that is the most true often is the one that is the most simple. And so live a simple life, right? Get out into nature, walk a little bit, be loving and kind, work, but never work more than you play. Find something that you love outside of work. Get into some kind of music or poetry, some kind of art, whatever it is, whether it's drawing or music or singing, like do something creative every day for at least 5 or 10 minutes or a couple times a week. And be honest with yourself about your own limitations and invite people into your story that tell you the things you don't like to hear. And to remind you that you matter. And then get up every day and hit repeat and do that again. Put a little time into your body, put a little time into your energy, put a little time into your mind, and share all the gifts that you have generously with those you come into contact with. And every time you judge someone, realize that you're judging yourself, because you're saying that if I look like that, if I sounded like that, if I behave like that, I would be unworthy of love.
All right. Where can listeners find your book, Free for Life, and connect with you on social media?
They can go to truebodyintelligence.com and they can start to get some information and understand the book is there. There's two audio versions of the book. You can get the paperback there. And social media, they can punch in my name, Christopher Lee Maher, and go to Instagram and TikTok and Facebook and all the usual platforms.
As we wrap up, Christopher, can you kind of summarize our discussion with some key takeaways for our audience who are listening to us today?
Yeah. Let me think about what I feel is important. It's the key takeaway. Wherever you have pain in your life, that pain is directing you towards a place where you have an inner deficiency, you have an insecurity, you have a limiting belief, or you have a fear. And summon the courage to address that directly. Let someone in to your secrets, because your secrets create secretions that cause you to produce defeating behavior. And so be honest with yourself about your pain, about your discomfort. If your brain is foggy, find somebody who can help you get a clear mind. If your body's uncomfortable, find somebody who can help you get your body comfortable. If your body's weak, find somebody who can help you get your body strong. If you're anxious, if your emotions are anxious, find somebody who can help you reduce your anxiety. And if your spirit is deficient or disconnected, find somebody who can help you feel more connected and more directed towards source consciousness.
That's good. Well, Christopher, thanks so much for taking the time to kind of make us take a step back and think about our life, even the pace of life. I think that was a revelation for me, thinking about the fact that we're living our life like Navy SEALs. And while I've always admired the SEALs, I never intended to live my life like one. So I think that was a revelation for me.
Great. Yeah, it's important. You get one shot at this, and love is the most important thing. In the beginning, all there was love. In the end, love is all that matters.
Yeah. Well, blessings on your book and on the work you're doing, and that keep moving forward. Get that studio going so you can get more content out there in the hands and the eyeballs of more people.
Yeah, that's the plan. Let's make that happen this year.
Let's make that happen. Thanks so much, Chris.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Trailblazers and Titans. If you enjoyed our conversation and found value in the insights shared, please subscribe to our podcast and leave us a review. Your feedback helps us reach more listeners and continue bringing you the stories of the world's most inspiring leaders. Don't forget to follow us on social media for updates and exclusive content. Join our community of Trailblazers and Titans, and let's continue to learn, grow, and transform our visions into reality together. Until next time, keep blazing your trail and striving for greatness.